Imagine if Smart Hulk actually debuted a whole movie earlier than you remember. Or if Tony Stark got one final emotional goodbye scene with his daughter that nobody ever got to see on screen. Both of these were filmed for the Avengers movies and then quietly erased before release. These are the deleted Avengers scenes Marvel never wanted you to see. Part 1, Avengers 2012. Avengers 1 has a surprising amount of cut material that completely changes the tone of the film, and a few of these scenes would have made the movie feel almost unrecognizable if they had stayed in the final cut. The first major deleted scene is called Steve Rogers' Man Out of Time. Steve quietly wanders modern New York alone, stops by old locations he used to know from the 40s, and learns that Peggy Carter is still alive, but chooses not to reach out to her. Since the studio felt audiences needed to understand Cap's isolation right away, it was cut because Marvel wanted Cap to feel more like a confident team leader in his Avengers debut rather than a lost soldier still grieving his old life. Without it, his loneliness in the final film almost completely disappeared, and a huge piece of his early MCU identity gets quietly erased before audiences even meet him properly. Next is the Maria Hill alternate opening. The film originally began after the Battle of New York, with the World Security Council interrogating Maria Hill about what really happened during the invasion, and the entire movie was supposed to play out as her testimony in flashback form.
Horror, this catastrophe could have been averted.
It was cut because Marvel didn't want to start a superhero blockbuster with a cold political investigation, which would have set a much darker tone from the very first frame and reframed the entire Avengers project as a government scandal instead of a triumph for the team. The film was also going to close on Hill testifying before the council, slowly revealing that she had been on Fura's side the whole time and feeding the council misleading information to protect the initiative. It was dropped for the same reason as the alternate opening. Marvel didn't want to finish the movie on a quiet government interrogation instead of a heroic team moment, even though it would have set up the political tension of Winter Soldier in a much more direct way years before that film actually arrived in theater. Then there's Bruce Banner and the security guard. After Hulk falls from the helicarrier, Bruce has a longer conversation with a guard played by the legendary Harry Dean Stanton, who quietly pushes him back toward the team in a much more philosophical exchange than what made it into the final cut. It was trimmed for pacing, but its absence is the exact reason why Bruce's decision to return to New York feels so rushed in the released cut of the film. The scene called Loki and Barton Strategize positions the mind-controlled Hawkeye as a major intelligence source on every single Avenger. Hawkeye gives Loki detailed tactical breakdowns of each team member.
As long as he's in the air, I can't pin him down, and he'll be putting together a team.
Marvel cut it to keep Loki as the sole mastermind of the invasion, since they didn't want Hawkeye to feel too important to the villain's plan before the heroes even realize he's been compromised by the Scepter. There's also a longer Nick Fury and World Security Council scene where Fury openly fights with his superiors about the Avengers initiative itself. It was cut for runtime, but it would have made the Council's later decision to nuke Manhattan Land with a lot more weight in the final battle, and it actually quietly foreshadowed the Hydra infiltration that wouldn't be revealed until Winter Soldier 2 years later. Finally, the Black Widow and Hawkeye Viaduct fight is an extended action beat during the Battle of New York, where the two non-powered Avengers hold a street against waves of Chitauri while protecting civilians caught in the crossfire. It was cut for length, since the final battle was already pushing every limit Marvel had set for itself in 2012, and the studio wanted the focus locked on the bigger heroes for the climax of the film. Part 2, Avengers Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron is famous for being heavily cut down. Joss Whedon himself has spoken openly about how much footage never made it into the final film, and he has publicly said he fought hard to keep some of these moments. The biggest one is the Norn Cave. Thor was supposed to travel with Eric Selvig to a mystical cave and receive a full vision explaining the Infinity Stones by name, their origins, and his place in the larger cosmic picture. Selvig had a much bigger role in this version, essentially serving as the audience's guide to Marvel's cosmic mythology. It got reduced to that confusing pool sequence in the theatrical cut because the studio worried it slowed the pacing too much. The result is one of the most criticized scenes in the entire MCU.
The Mind Stone, that rules perception, that molds the mind's monsters.
Then there's the man in the church. Pietro spends extended time helping Sokovian civilians, handing out supplies and food, slowly being established as the protector of his hometown before being lured into a trap by Ultron, disguised as a friendly message from Tony Stark himself. Wanda even tries to warn him with a brief vision. It was cut for runtime, but it's also the reason Quicksilver's death feels so cold in the final film. Without that scene, audiences never get to bond with him before he's already gone in the final act, which is a huge part of why so many fans never emotionally connected to his sacrifice in the released movie.
Standing still.
Do you think I want to be? You said wait, I'm waiting. I don't know for what.
The Bruce and Natasha talk at Clint's farm was significantly longer in its original form. Their conversation about running away together carried much more pain and weight, with Natasha revealing more details about her Red Room conditioning and Bruce going deeper into his fear of losing control around her.
Didn't realize you were waiting.
I would have joined you, but it didn't seem like the right time.
It gave their relationship an actual emotional foundation that the theatrical cut never properly establishes. It was trimmed because test audiences felt the romance was already dragging, which ironically is exactly why so many fans ended up hating the relationship in the released version of the film.
What are you doing?
I'm running with it. With you.
The Watch Your Six scene shows breaking down just how dangerous Ultron actually is, including his potential ability to take over global defense systems, NATO infrastructure, and even Pentagon-level military network. It was cut to keep Ultron's threat focused on his physical robot army.
What's this?
It's a message.
Banks eat the crime scene, just for us.
Why send a message when you've just given a speech?
Strucker knew something that Ultron wanted us to miss.
Before we move on, quick favor. I put a lot of work into these videos. A like, your hype points, and a subscribe genuinely helps me out. Now let's keep going. Part 3, Avengers Infinity War. Infinity War has some of the wildest cut content in the entire MCU, and one of these reveals completely changes how you see the next movie in the saga. The first one is massive. Smart Hulk was supposed to debut in Infinity War, not Endgame. Bruce would have made peace with the Hulk inside the Hulkbuster mid-battle, having a full internal conversation with him during the chaos of the Wakanda fight, and emerged as Professor Hulk for the first time on the battlefield.
Here we go.
Hello, Matt.
The Russo brothers have confirmed this version multiple times in interviews and commentary track. Marvel cut it because the directors decided Hulk's refusal to come out worked better as an ongoing emotional arc stretching across 2 films.
We worked it out. In fact, I'd say it's gone from worst case scenario to, I don't know if it's best case, but at least it feels very, very manageable.
This single cut is the reason Smart Hulk feels like he comes out of nowhere in Endgame. The official deleted scene, A Father's Choice, shows Thanos confronting Gamora about his lies.
Accepted my terms.
Eventually.
Complete with a disturbing vision pulled from her childhood memories on her homeworld before he conquered it. The vision shows young Gamora, her family, and the moment Thanos took her, all twisted into a tool of emotional manipulation right before Vormir. It was removed because the Vormir sequence was already emotionally heavy, and the directors didn't want to stack even more trauma onto that arc in the final cut.
After my planet died, I had nothing, and I thought I never would.
The Guardians Get Their Groove Back scene shows the team regrouping after the Nowhere disaster and finding Nebula's distress signal, which is the actual reason they end up on Titan in the first place. Star-Lord and Drax actually fight in the original version, with Mantis being the one who finally discovers the signal hidden in the ship's system. It was cut for pacing, which is exactly why the Guardians' arrival on Titan feels almost random in the released film.
I'm screwed up, man. I gotta get back in the groove. Specifically the New York groove. Give me my zoom. No, give me the zoom.
Happy Knows Best is a smaller scene where Tony, Pepper, and Happy discuss wedding plans and the future of the Stark family in much greater detail, leaning more clearly into the family life Tony quietly wants for himself. Happy actually gives Tony genuine relationship advice in this version.
That's why when you get out of the cart and just de-stress, just walk with us.
Bert! I see you, Bert! Son of a bitch. Come here, Bert! Come here!
And one for the trailer detectives. The famous shot of Hulk charging into Wakanda was never actually in the released movie at all. Part 4, Avengers Endgame. Endgame had a famously chaotic edit, and a lot of major content never made it into the final cut. The most famous one is the Katherine Langford scene. After the snap, Tony was supposed to meet an adult version of his daughter, Morgan, in a Soul Stone-style afterlife, similar to Thanos meeting young Gamora at the end of Infinity War. It was filmed and fully completed with Katherine Langford from 13 Reasons Why in the role. Test audiences found it confusing because they didn't yet know who the adult Morgan was supposed to be, and the emotional payoff didn't land without that context. So Marvel cut it entirely from the final movie.
Do I know you?
We're pretty close, actually.
Because you're just worked.
Yeah.
The Avengers Take a Knee scene shows every single hero kneeling in tribute after Tony's death on the battlefield, fully choreographed and blocked with the entire cast in costume. Gamora quietly walks away in the background instead of joining the tribute. It was cut in favor of the funeral, but it also quietly explains why Gamora isn't actually present at that funeral in the final film. Marvel chose the smaller, more personal goodbye over the bigger battlefield tribute moment. The Hulk meets the Ancient One scene has an extended alternate version where the Ancient One explains the multiverse, timeline branching consequences of removing stones in full detail.
What's the matter? Fingers too big for the doorbell? Or if you're going downstairs, could you grab some ice from the fridge? It's hotter than I thought up here.
Suckiest Army in the Galaxy is a quick comedic beat where Rocket mocks the original Avengers for taking 2 whole hours to beat the Chitauri back in 2012.
Two or 3 hours?
Hours? The Chitauri, the suckiest army in the galaxy. Why don't you just blow up the mothership?
It was cut because it undercut the nostalgia of the 2012 New York return that Marvel wanted to lean into emotionally during the time heist sequence in the second half of the movie. The Tony and Howard scene from the 1970s was originally a bit longer. It was trimmed because the shorter version hit harder emotionally. Bombs on Board is a deleted scene where Rhodey jokes that Steve could have just parachuted out of the plane instead of crashing it into the ice back in the 40s, breaking down the actual logical flaws of Cap's most famous sacrifice.
Ask, why did you have to crash the plane anyway? And you couldn't have jumped out of the plane before you crashed it?
Accidentally undercut Captain America's most iconic moment, so it had to go before it ruined one of the most important beats in MCU history for everyone watching. Here is an extended Asgard moment where Rocket roasts Thor for barely remembering his own home during the time heist.
You don't know? You used to frickin' live here.
For 1,500 years, not forever.
It was cut because Thor's arc was already leaning too hard into comedy at that point in the movie, and the directors wanted to pull back before fans turned on the character entirely after this film. Goji Berries is a small domestic scene with Tony, Pepper, and the family alpaca named Gerald on the farm before everything kicks off. Gerald eats Pepper's garden produce while the family laughs about it together. It was sweet, but it slowed the build-up to the time heist.
These are Gojis?
They are not.
What's wrong with ours?
Your alpaca ate them all.
Oh.
If you made it this far, drop a like, hit subscribe, and use those hype points. See you in the next video.